Hello! We're going to talk about white pine and make an infusion of white pine. Um, this white pine I gathered right outside. I have so many white pine trees, little ones, big ones. And the way that you can tell what's white pine versus another type of pine, it's the needles are really long, they're really soft, it's not like prickly like some other evergreen trees. And specifically, the way that the needles are bunched is they have 5 needles per little thing. This is kind of dry because it's been in my house for a little while. You can make the infusion with fresh pine. I just had a lot of pine laying around that I didn't want to waste, so I'm making it with dried. But it would be really nice to make it with fresh pine. So, what's an infusion? An infusion is kind of like a tea, but you're using more plant matter than you would when you make a tea, and you're using more water than you would when you would make a tea, and you're also steeping it for much longer to really draw out the medicinal properties of the plant, or in this case, the tree. So a typical ratio when you're making an infusion is to use 1 ounce of plant matter to 32 ounces of hot water. So I have my little kitchen scale and I'm going to measure the 1 ounce because it's actually pretty difficult to tell from plant to plant like how much you're getting in 1 ounce. So if you do have something that you could use to measure it, that would be great. I mean, if you don't really sweat it. You can still make it. But it is good to really get, because you always, what I find is that I always need more than what I think. So I'm just cutting this a little bit to fit in, and also I'm cutting it to open up the plants. So when the water meets the needles, it kind of has somewhere to go, right? It's not just like searching for the opening. And you'll notice that I'm also using like the little twigs, the little branches, like that's totally fine. Ooh, I just cut my finger. That's also totally fine to put in there too. So why would I be making a white pine infusion? So what I can tell you about white pine, as with most evergreens and pines, is that it's super, super, super high in vitamin C. So we've got that going for us to kind of help with like cold and flu, boost some immunity by getting those extra vitamins. And then the major thing about white pine in particular is the benefits that it has in clearing out the respiratory system and your whole kind of like throat and lungs and nose. It has very special like antiseptic properties that are especially beneficial for respiratory. Like during 2020, 2021, in my herbalist circle that I was a part of, like women in Arizona were asking me to ship them white pine because it was so beneficial for the coronavirus, to help relieve those symptoms. And also it was really difficult to find because all of the herbalists were kind of buying white pine where they didn't have it available to them. So it's great if you have a virus. It's great if you have anything going on with your respiratory. It's kind of like if you have phlegmy cough, it's going to help break that up. These dried leaves are making a mess. They're getting everywhere. But even though it's dry, you can still smell it. It smells so good. Let's see. So we're almost at 1 ounce. And when I put the water on it, I don't want my water to be totally boiling, because if it's too hot, the water will kill off, just pushing this down a little bit, the water will kill off the beneficial properties. You'll still get some benefit if you're using boiling water, but for the most part, if it's too hot, it's going to really like shock your plant material, and it won't be as beneficial as if you're just using water that has just been boiled. Some people use water just before it starts boiling, but I like to use water that has already boiled and then started to cool on the other side, just to make sure that the water is like totally clean and boiled, even though I'm using filtered water. Okay, so we got to 1 ounce, and you can see like it's a lot of pine to get to the 1 ounce. And then I'm just opening up a little bit more. Oh, it smells so good. And then I take my boiling water and pour it right over the needles. And I like to either move my glass around or kind of gauge my water over all of it. You want to get everybody into the water. And then there'll be a moment where it's kind of settling and some air bubbles are coming up. You want to let that happen. You can use like a spoon or a knife to just make sure you're getting all of the needles and twigs submerged into the water. Oh, get back there. And you fill it up to the tippity top. And then you seal it with your mason jar lid, making sure those needles get in. And then, while it's very hot, you don't really want to touch it too much. And you're going to want to let this sit for at least 8 hours. 24 hours is the best. So I leave it on my counter until it's cool enough and it's at room temperature, and then you can move it to the refrigerator, because sometimes I actually even forget after 24 hours and it goes a little bit longer. And you want to kind of handle this as though it's like food. So you would put it in the fridge if you're going for longer than overnight. And I have one right here that I made last night. And so you can see, I don't know if you can see, but probably you can, that the needles are not as green as they were, because all of that juiciness has made its way into my infusion. I'm going to put it in this glass, my glass of water. And sometimes what happens, because you fill it all the way to the top, it gets suction sealed. So you might need a can opener. How does this thing work? You might need a can opener to open it. Hopefully a can opener that you know. It doesn't have one of those things. Hopefully a can opener that you can operate. Let's see if I can do it with my own might. No. Okay, here we go. A good old-fashioned can opener. Yeah, we got it. And then my secret to really having herbal infusions that I drink almost every day is this strainer. It's called a sprouting lid, because if you make sprouts, they sell it for that. But it's the perfect thing to make in making infusions easy. So you just kind of replace your solid ring with this, put it back on. Because the thing about making infusions, you can see, like, weigh it out, putting the water, letting it sit. Like, there is having enough jars around that are clean and available. There is some kind of prep work that's needed. And then you can just, oh, it's so beautiful. Just strain it. And you can see it's it's pretty clear, but it does have some of the color to it. And if you wanted to drink this warm, you could add a tea to it. You could add just warm water to it. You can add, yeah, that's it. You can just drink it as it is. And it's really going to help you if you have any kind of respiratory stuff going on. It'll help clear the passageways. And like if it's anywhere like here where you are, there's white pine abundantly out, just like in my yard. And hopefully you can find it. Hopefully it's not scarce where you are, and you can gather it and then make yourself a beautiful, beautiful white pine infusion to enjoy and to help you stay healthy, get healthy, be healthy. Thank you, white pine. We love you. Oh my gosh, it's so good. It's so good. And it's especially more flavorful and more like you can really like feel the constituents of the plants like working on you. Even just having it steeping for like almost that 24 hours, it just really makes a difference, because sometimes I get impatient and pull it after like 8 hours, which is still good, but like the longer the better.